What do you call a nearsighted cowboy? Squint Eastwood. What's going on, YouTube? It is Tuesday, so we have our weekly vendor refresh. However, also have a brand new Elder Scrolls Online update. So whether or not these items are the same across all consoles remains to be seen. But for at least Xbox and PlayStation, you know we'll be getting these bad boys. So we start off with the Lustrous Prong Clasp. Now, this is a really weird lead because it comes from wood nodes only in Galen and High Isle. But it comes from the Fawn Lark's Cladding Mythic, which is really not one that jumps out at me as being one that you necessarily need to own these days. And the lead itself is relatively straightforward. So 5,000 Archival Fortunes, just go farm some wood. Next up is a really cool mythic, the Shadow Queen's Cow lead of Shadow Criteria Stitching. Probably completely butchered that, but this bad mamma jamma actually comes from Westwell, but it comes from a Lumber Camp Delve boss. But the actual mythic itself is relatively cool. Sorry, I record these on my lunch break, so you can tell I'm a little bit scatterbrained. While crouched, you can see witnesses and guards through walls. Successfully pickpocketing a witness or guard applies distracted to them, stunning them, and decreasing their stealth detection radius for 30 meters for the duration. So it's actually a pretty cool mythic. It's very flavorful. You don't get too many mythics like that these days that are just not combat based. So pretty cool, but don't buy that one. Just go farm the Delve. Next up, we have the Engine Guardian Shoulder. Now, notoriously, this is one of the best looking, Dwemer styled items. And it's not on the market at all, which kind of surprised me. It's not been able to be farmed for a while. There is an opal version, but that's a little bit more purpley pinky. So a lot of people really like this base one. So should you spend 15,000 Archival Fortunes to get a bound style page? It's gonna kind of depend on you. This is something that's currently priceless. There's no sales of it right now, and it does give you the specific style. Some people love this style. Some people are a bit like, seen a bit too much of it in Skyrim for my taste. But that's up to you. You have to let me know if you find this interesting below. Next up, we have our consumable blueprints. These are untradeable, but you can sell the made items. So we get a nice little stool. Then we get actually a really cool looking wardrobe. I don't know how many people are going to put this in their houses because this style wise is just so unique. And then we get a street lamp. The street lamp, notoriously, by the way, costs 13 mundane runes to craft. That is a little bit expensive for my taste. So should you buy these items? Probably not, because the people are going to buy them regardless and going to sell them on the market anyway. And these are just so expensive in mundane runes. Unless you want to make a bunch of stools, then this is the week for you. And a lot of people have been saying, Jake, some of these blueprints were worth a lot of gold. And the problem with that is that most people who are selling these have the intention to sell the recipe, not the pre-made item. So yes, you could be saving gold if you bought them here, but at the end of the day, your value comes from either owning the recipe or being able to actually, make these items / purchase these items. Because you can't resell the recipe, most people, the value of the recipe is irrelevant, because the only people that generally buy these things are like hardcore furniture sellers, and they generally are just going to buy whatever they don't currently own. So that's where it's a bit tricky. If you want me to break that down more, talk about that more in any videos, let me know. But that's generally why I kind of keep things a pushing. Northern Elsewhere treasure maps, some decent sets that drop from there. Notoriously, Crafty Elfique is still one of the most popular sets in the entirety of the Elder Scrolls Online. But even with it being one of the most popular sets in the game, I still find myself thinking, not worth it to get the treasure maps, let's be honest. There's no real good antiquity drops or real good juice for the squeeze when it comes to these. Next up is equipment weapons. Now, this will be bind on pickup, and notoriously, this is the worst one to gamble on, but it also could be the one that saves you the most amount of gold, because if you were to get the actual weapon and the trait that you wanted, you're probably going to save more gold than if you were to purchase any other piece, rings, helmets, chest pieces, whatever. So it's tricky. It's a gamble. It's the biggest gamble, but it could pay off. So it just depends on, let's go gambling. That could be you. You could do that here. Next up is a deck fragment that comes from World Bosses. If you buy this, you'll be slapped with a wet pool noodle. Then we have a report of the Dusk Sabers. Now, I don't know what a Dusk Saber is. It almost feels like it's a sea lion, but it could be a sword. But then if it's a sword, Why is it plural? So maybe it's a group of people. And then we have what about glyphics? Which, God bless, who knows? Then we have ourselves some bound scripts. Now, notoriously, if you don't have these unlocked, these are going to be more expensive. So if you're seeing the prices, you're like, oh, it's decently affordable. It could be more expensive. Thankfully, Inveneration, Dispel, Trauma, and Growing Impact are not super impactful. And then we finish off with 2 fragments. The Archival Enigmas comes from the Infinite Archive. We've talked about this face art a bajillion times. And then we have the Zenithar Gates Inscribed Shards, which would be a little bit more interesting. It's actually not bind on pickup, which is interesting. And I see a lot of people listing them up on the market, which is interesting, because that would mean that 1,000 archival fortunes could just become 4,000 to 5,000 gold pretty quickly. Let's see if this, I don't know if this was intentional. Let me see if I can buy one of these bad boys real quick. Yeah, it looks to be fully tradable. So if you want to purchase some stuff with your archival fortunes and just turn it into gold, these things are actually pretty decent to sell because you combine them all together. You can make the Zenithar Adaptium Gate. But I also would worry that a lot of people might do this because there's already people doing this on PC, because I'm looking at the listings of these and the market is becoming flooded. So take that with a grain of salt, if you will, but it could be good if you wanted to turn some archival fortunes to gold. Next up, we're inside the Scholarium inside of Ivea, which is over here if you've never been here before. Now, this is going to be a base game feature, but not yet. I believe it's going to be updated around July, or maybe the console release of Update 46, to where you actually have access to scribing as a base game feature. So it's not there yet, but it is coming. But if you have this individual unlocked, you can use him and then buy some rotational scripts. All stuff up here is static. It's there every week, but we have our rotational scripts. Intellect and Endurance, I love as PvP item, because then you can stack major and minor intellect and endurance. What is that? It's essentially resource recovery. Magicka recovery, stamina recovery. Now, being able to use your abilities, roll, dodge, sprint is just great to living. Then you also have pull, which is great for off tanking or even tanking. I think pull is just one of those ones that you want to have if you're ever, like, ooh, do I ever want to be a tank? Anchorite's Potency is a really powerful script, especially for PvP, again, just because it ends up being in that situation. If you're confused, obviously pull is obviously a little bit more of a support utility thing, but generally you don't need to have as much resource recovery for PvE content as you do for PvP content, because you're in these fights with people who are potentially trying to out-resource you. And Anchorite's Potency is another example just where it becomes easier to, kill a person versus, killing an NPC in the overworld. You're not going to use Anchorite's Potency just because of how the different ways you can build it. And then Class Mastery is static. And for example, I actually use Anchorite's Potency. You can see it here as my spammable, but you could see it consumes a soul gem and then it does max health, oblivion damage, different people. So it's really more of something you might want to use against a player. But overall, this is a good assortment, and these are with gold. Gold is always significantly better as a resource to invest in these things. If you get a duplicate, you can resell it for 1,000 gold, so it's not too much of a loss, but then you have it on that character that you need it on. And finally, we're at the Telvar Merchant. Now, this bad mammoth gem is in our Lambient Passage. If you ever need help finding these, go to ESO Helper. It's in the description below. We start off with some PvP sets that are golded out, but it's going to cost 100k Telvar. First up is Curse Eater. Curse Eater used to be the bee's knees. This used to be what all the cool kids were wearing, like in 18, 19. When you heal yourself or an ally with a direct heal, you remove up to 3 negative effects from them. If a negative effect was removed this way, your target restores a bunch of magicka. This effect can occur once every 8 seconds per target. That seems pretty helpful, but then you realize things like Plague Break exist, and Plague Break hit the community like crack. And unfortunately, Curse Eating became a bit of a problem because the original version of Plague Break was ridiculously overpowered, and Curse Eating is just not as good in comparison. And they're just better sustain sets. It's 2025. Wear Wretched Vitality, wear Roxas. You don't need any, your grandpa's Curse Eater set. Next up, we have Night Slayer, which is another set that comes from PvP. Your fully charged heavy attacks deal an additional 8% of an enemy's max health as oblivion damage. This can deal a maximum of 8,000 oblivion damage. You might think to yourself, Jake, this is fantastic, right? It's a heavy attack set. All the kids love heavy attack sets these days. Here's the problem, quite a few problems. One, oblivion damage doesn't crit. So for PvE, this is in a bit of a weird spot because if you can't get crit damage, that's how most people build or try to build and stack buffs to get damage out of. So you're not dealing a lot of damage for PvE. For PvP, most people, yeah, they got a little bit of health, but not enough to where 8% of their max health is a lot. I mean, 30k health, yeah, that's 2,000 to 3,000 damage as a proc set. That's really not that good. Granted, Oblivion damage, could be a little more impactful on a player getting hit by it than a boss, but still, you're not really doing a lot of damage. You're not doing enough, in my opinion, to really justify a 5-piece set. So I would give Curse Eating a 7 out of 10. Night Slayer is probably like a 6 out of 10. But both of them I wouldn't recommend in 2025 because there's 8, 9s, and 10 out of 10s that just blow both of them away. Next up, we have the Bull's Head Gallery Rail. Now, this one actually does come from a really annoying location because you have to do Deadlands daily reward coffers, which suck because there's no. That's one of my least favorite things to do because you think to yourself, oh, I could farm dailies, but then they take so long because then you're farming all these different things. You got to wait for the world boss to respawn when you're trying to do the world boss one. It's just so finicky, in my opinion. I like to skip these. However, thankfully, the Belisar's band is one of the weirdest mythics in the game. You increase the damage of your light attacks by 900. So a lot of people are like, oh, I'm kind of excited here. And when you deal damage with a consecutive melee light attack, you gain a stack of Beelzar's Temper for 10 seconds, up to a max stacks of 5. At 5 stacks, you consume all of those stacks, and after 1 second, you deal 1471 physical damage to an enemy in a line and stun them. It basically just like shoots a Minotaur like pew, out at people. And I actually own this mythic. I thought this could be a fun mythic to run, 900 damage to your, light attacks. It's just, it wasn't worth it. When sets like the Oaken Soul exist and Velothi, and there's so many mythics that are just good. I mean, even for PvE purposes, you probably would be better off using like the Marken Ring for damage. Next up, we have the Torque Strand of Lore. Now, this sounds like pretty cool, but it's just Alakir world bosses. And the Alakir world bosses definitely skip the gym. Very easy to solo. You ain't got to worry about them. And the Torque of Tonal Constancy. I mean, there's definitely some people who use it, while your stamina is less than 50%, you increase your magicka recovery by 450. While your magicka is less than 50%, you increase your stamina recovery by 450. Obviously, there's ways that you could get some good juice for that, but to me, not worth it. Also, the treasure maps in Green Shade, not worth it either. Same with the rings of the sets that we talked about. And then we get ourselves to a weird spot because we have Mangle, Poison Damage, Restore Resources, and Knight's Valor. Thankfully, when it comes to Telvar's premium currency. A lot of people don't just wake up every day and think to themselves, I'm going to go farm Telvar. But a lot of people will farm gold. So to me, I like buying scripts with gold. I've got more of it. It's a universal currency. I can have access to getting it easier. It's just a more simple farm. Even Archival Fortunes to some people is an easier farm than Telvar, but that's a whole other conversation. So Mangle, Poison Damage, Restore Resources, Knight's Valor. Do any of these jump out at me? Poison damage used to be something that I would, kind of point people in the direction towards if they were interested. Restore resources, but I wouldn't these days. Do your daily quest. And if you're like, oh, well, I'm a PvPer, Jake, I don't do daily quests. Do your daily Cyrodiil quest. Same issue. Just do those. You don't need to do, you don't go out there and need to farm, all these other hoity-toity quests, closing, Oblivion gates, or whatever we do these days. Well, technically it's anchors. You ain't got to do that. Just farm your daily scout missions, your daily capture the keeps, and you'll be getting these scripts as well. So I wouldn't encourage anyone to buy any of these specifically. And then we have Twin Slash's Lilac Purple, so you could buy them with Telvar instead of actually using your Undaunted keys to get them. Honestly, with how popular Twin Slashes is for PvP, maybe you want to buy these. I don't know. But everyone, thank you guys so much again for watching. I do just want to point out that you can get this non-combat pet that I have back here in my background that I'm pointing to in the game right now. So that's kind of neat. I already have it collected because I'm a cool guy. Just don't ask how. It's a secret. You can also get a dope statue and 15,000 gold. I don't know why Zos thinks that, this couldn't even buy me an Uber gift card in 2025. But thank you, Zos, for 16 or 15,000 gold. So overall, I would encourage you guys, obviously, to do the Golden Pursuit. But that is everything for this week. If you want to convert some Archival Fortunes to gold, We can almost see here. Are people still listing up inscribed shards for less and less gold? Oh yeah, people are still listing them up. They're still going. 13 minutes ago, 14 minutes ago, 25 minutes ago. If you guys want to sell these bad boys, I don't want to, not tell you about it, because you could see people are listing them up. So if you want to buy some inscribed shards for 1,000 archival fortunes each, go for it. If you want to buy lilac purple, twin slashes, those are the two things that I would consider for this week, and I'll catch you guys later. Have a fantastic Tuesday. As always, we're doing our 3 giveaway drawings very quickly. Every single video for the month of June has a hidden word commented below. We also have content passes to give away to people. So it's big good thing to be here on the videos, even if you don't get it for this one. Second thing is just make sure you're subscribed. We're on the road to 32,000 subscribers, so please hit the subscribe button. And the third thing is just leave a like and a comment on the video. In fact, you could do either or. You could like the video or leave a comment. It's totally up to you. But if you do more, it definitely helps. So thank you guys again. Have a fantastic week, and I'll catch you later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.